The night before what was supposed to be my wedding, my fiancé, Leo, held his childhood sweetheart in his arms. He looked over her shoulder and met my eyes, his voice gentle, with a tone that felt strangely rehearsed. He asked for one last night of freedom, promising that after this, he would be completely loyal to our marriage for the rest of his life. I stared at him for a long, silent moment, the noise of the party fading into a dull hum. Then, I nodded. As he walked past me, he leaned in and added casually, "If you want, you can find someone too. I swear I won't mind." But I didn't need to look far. I walked directly to the man sitting nearest to him, his closest friend. I met his striking, unreadable eyes and said clearly, "Will you sleep with me tonight?" If Leo was allowed a night with Clara, the girl he had loved since they were children, didn't I also deserve a night with my own first love? The private room was crowded and loud, filled with Leo's friends and my own bridesmaids. The air was thick with the smell of expensive alcohol and forced cheer after several rounds of drinks. That was when Leo, tipsy and reckless, wrapped an arm around Clara's shoulders and laughed. "You see, Clara," he slurred, "childhood sweethearts can never win against someone who just appears out of nowhere. Amelia came into my life just like that, and now I'm marrying her. Don't you feel even a little bit of regret?" Clara's happy expression crumbled instantly. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Even if I do," she whispered, her voice trembling, "what could I possibly do now? You chose her." Leo stared at her tear-stained face, his own expression filled with a theatrical pity. "Then let's make up for that regret tonight," he declared. Clara looked up at him, startled. "How?" He turned his gaze toward me, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "Honey, we'll be husband and wife tomorrow. I swear on everything, I will be faithful to you once we're married. But just for tonight, can't we do something a little wild? One night of freedom for both of us." The room erupted in a chaotic mixture of laughter and applause. But when they saw the cold, still expression on my face, the noise quickly died down. Leo's message couldn't have been clearer. He wanted one night with the girl he had loved for most of his life, so that he would enter our marriage with no regrets. He was confident I would tolerate it, that after a few sweet words tomorrow, I would forgive him. He believed I wouldn't dare resist, that I wouldn't walk away from the marriage because, in his eyes, I was the lucky one. He had always seen our relationship as me marrying up, far above my station. After all, I was just the daughter of two factory workers, while he was the heir to a vast family fortune. To him, I should have been grateful just for the chance to stand beside him. And in a way, he wasn't entirely wrong. I knew exactly what it felt like to be pursued by a wealthy man and then crushed by the immense weight of his powerful family's expectations. But it hadn't been Leo who had made me feel that way. As I stood there, frozen in place, one of my friends tugged at my sleeve. "Amelia, don't be silly," she whispered urgently. "You can't possibly agree to this." But when I looked into Leo's eyes, I saw the truth. He had already made his decision. He was going to do whatever he wanted with or without my permission. So, I nodded slowly. "Fine," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "I agree." Laughter exploded through the room again. The tension vanished, replaced by loud, boisterous cheers. "Wow, sister-in-law, you really are something else," someone shouted. "That's exactly the kind of grace a woman needs to marry into the Sterling family. No wonder Leo knelt in his father's study for 3 days just to get permission to marry you." Leo's smug, satisfied smile returned. He pulled Clara even closer to his side. "It's getting late, and I still have a wedding to get to tomorrow," he announced, rising from the sofa. "Clara and I are going to head out now. Drink whatever you want, enjoy yourselves. Put everything on my tab." The teasing resumed as he passed by me again. He leaned close, his breath smelling of whiskey, and whispered, "Seriously, Amelia, go find a man. I promise I won't mind." He was betting on my pride. He was betting that I would never stoop to his level, that I would never actually act on the dare he had just thrown at me. I turned to face him fully. "You're sure?" I asked. He raised a single eyebrow. "Of course, I'm a man of my word. I told you I'd marry you, didn't I? And here we are." But he was wrong. I didn't owe him a thing, especially not tonight, not to him, and certainly not to Clara. I turned away from his smug face and looked toward the far end of the room. There, sitting in silence for the entire evening, was a man with a cold, distant expression, completely unmoved by the surrounding chaos. I didn't need to go searching for anyone else. Ignoring Leo completely, I walked straight toward him. Without a moment's hesitation, I knelt beside his chair, deliberately lowering myself until my gaze was locked with his calm, unwavering eyes. "Would you sleep with me tonight?" I asked. The man, Julian, leaned back against the plush leather of the sofa. His presence was overwhelming, and his eyes bore down on me as if I were something insignificant and disposable. For a second, I thought he might just kick me away. Then, from behind me, someone scoffed. "Amelia, seriously? Of all people, you choose him?" The voice was full of mockery. He was ruined by his first love years ago. Hasn't touched a woman since. Do you even know who she was? Amelia, that was her name. Just hearing my own name spoken in that context stirred something deep inside me. My thoughts raced. I stared at him without blinking, taking in the face that had haunted so many of my sleepless nights for so many years. If it hadn't been for the alcohol dulling my nerves, I never would have found the courage to look him in the eyes tonight. My fingers curled into tight fists in my lap, my nails digging into my palms. I wasn't sure how he would respond to me now, that is, until the cold leather tip of his shoe nudged my chin upward. He lifted his head slightly, his expression hardening, a chill radiating from him that seemed to make the entire room feel colder. His voice was sharp, laced with a deep, simmering anger. "Are you sure?" I refused to back down, pressing my chin more firmly against his shoe. I said, "I'm sure." He stood abruptly from the sofa. Everyone in the room probably thought I had crossed a line and was about to be unceremoniously thrown aside. After all, not long ago, a young actress had tried to flirt with him at a party. When she got too close, he had simply shoved her into a decorative water fountain without a second glance. She had cried out in shock, but he had just walked away. Leo leaped forward, trying to intervene. "Bro, that's my fiancée you're talking about. Don't hit her. She didn't mean anything by it. Amelia, get up. I told you before, he's not someone you can mess with. He's not even into women." He turned to me and added, "And I know you're not interested in any man but me, so just stop this nonsense and go back with your friends." But something about Leo's words seemed to hit a nerve. Julian suddenly shoved him back several steps. There was a dangerous fire in his eyes as he snapped, "Who said I'm not into women?" Before I could react, the room spun. He had picked me up and slung me effortlessly over his shoulder. His low voice grumbled beside my ear, thick with resentment from some long-held grudge. "Amelia Evans, you're the one who came looking for me." He moved toward the door, carrying me as everyone in the room stared in stunned silence. Leo chased after us, shouting, "What the hell, Julian? What are you doing?" Julian, whose full name was Julian Sterling, paused and turned his head slightly, his voice icy and emotionless. "What do you think I'm doing?" Leo's voice sharpened with panic. "Are you serious right now? That's my fiancée you're carrying." He kept repeating it, "my fiancée," as if the words themselves were a shield. The sound grated on my nerves. Julian shot Leo a cold, dismissive look, not even bothering to respond. He adjusted me slightly on his shoulder and continued toward the door. Leo, now clearly panicking, rushed forward and grabbed Julian's arm. "Julian, we've been best friends since we were kids. We practically grew up wearing the same pants. But she's my fiancée. You know the rule, never touch your friend's girl." Julian had no intention of putting me down. Instead, he flung Leo's hand away and shoved him hard right into Clara, who had been chasing after them and just happened to be standing by the door. The timing was perfect. Leo crashed into her, pinning her against the wall, their faces inches apart. With a chill in his voice, Julian said, "Then you should remember that rule yourself and mind your own business. Nights like this don't come around often." The alcohol was already making me dizzy, and now, thrown over Julian's shoulder, the spinning in my head only intensified. I called out softly, "Julian." He replied coldly, "Don't call me that. Are we close now?" The rest of my sentence, asking him to let me go, caught in my throat. I clenched my jaw and swallowed the words. It was just a bit of dizziness. I could handle it. After all, I owed him this. Not far behind us, Leo was still fuming, looking like he was ready to chase after us again. Julian Sterling, don't you play around. I am not letting this go. But before he could move, some of his friends held him back. Come on, Leo, one said. You know how strong Julian's gotten since he came back from overseas. Don't start a fight with him now. Remember that Northridge development project? You lowballed the bid, and he stayed silent out of respect, but let's be real, he's holding a grudge. Another added, he'll probably just toss her aside as soon as they get downstairs. You know how he is. He's been single for years, we all joke about it. The Black Monk, someone else chuckled. Always scowling. Won't even go near a woman, still pining after that wild first love who dumped him. Another said, no way he would actually touch your fiancé. Leo didn't follow us after that. By the time Julian and I reached the elevator, we had already put some distance between us and the party. As we stepped inside, I heard my two bridesmaids mocking Leo from behind, their voices dripping with sarcasm. What, he can't handle it now? One sneered. The other laughed. Wasn't he the one who said we all got one night of freedom? A real gentleman doesn't go back on his word. Go find yourself a man. I don't mind. Well, the first one said smugly, looks like Amelia's a free woman tonight. In the VIP parking lot on the ground floor, Julian finally deposited me into the passenger seat of his car. His black Pagani tore through the night, disappearing into the city's darkness. We soon arrived at a sleek, modern villa in a neighborhood I had never seen before. The moment we stepped inside, he yanked off my coat, gripped the back of my neck roughly, and crashed his furious, vengeful kiss onto my lips. I gasped, trying to push him away. Julian, I whispered, but he only held me tighter, pressing me against the cool wall until I couldn't move at all. His voice, laced with years of anger, cut through the silence. Didn't you say you wanted to sleep with me? So why are you backing away now? I had no answer. My heart pounded wildly in my chest as I pleaded in a small voice, please be gentle. But in the very next second, he threw me onto the bed. There was no gentleness, no hesitation, only a raw, unrestrained force. Our clothes were tossed to the floor one by one, his movements rough and almost punishing. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, he stopped. He had frozen completely. It wasn't until he realized I was still a virgin that the storm in his expression began to ease. The anger and bitterness on his striking, icy face softened, if only slightly. You haven't slept with Leo? He asked, his eyes narrowing. After all this time, how was I supposed to explain it to him? My teeth pressed into my lower lip as I gave a vague reply. We never had time. We were supposed to get married tomorrow, but we never actually slept together. In today's world, who would believe such a thing? Who could have possibly managed it? But I had my reasons. The truth was, Leo and I had never really dated. We had skipped that entire phase and gone straight to being engaged. It didn't mean he wasn't serious about me or that I hadn't wanted to build a life with him. I truly had wanted to build a future by his side. But after tonight, it felt like everything was unraveling. Julian's brows drew together as he stared down at me. His expression was unreadable. He was trying to make sense of it, trying to believe what he had just discovered. If I had never been with another man, then this moment, this was real. The coldness in his eyes began to melt, replaced by a faint, warm flush. It was as if all the sorrow and longing he had kept hidden for so many years were finally surfacing, bit by bit, just enough for me to see. Then, at last, he let his guard down. He sighed, his whole body relaxing, and pulled me gently into his arms. He pressed a soft kiss to the corner of my lip, the very one he had bitten in his earlier rage. Then he rolled us over, letting my head rest against his shoulder, his chest rising and falling beneath me as our skin touched. I could feel the heat of his breath near my ear. Amelia Evans, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I still love you. And when he kissed me again, it was completely different. It was slow, lingering, almost trembling. His kisses tasted faintly of tears. The chandelier above us shimmered, its light blurring in my eyes. It was already past midnight when my phone, discarded on the nightstand, suddenly began to vibrate over and over again. The soft ringtone, usually sweet and familiar, felt jarring now, slicing through the stillness and breaking Julian's focus. It was Leo. I wanted to silence it, to send the call away, but my finger slipped, and the call connected. Leo's voice, unsteady and pleading, poured through the speaker. Honey, why aren't you home? Where did Julian take you? Let's stop this silly pre-wedding freedom thing, all right? I thought about it. It was dumb, and Clara, she means nothing. She can't even compare to a single strand of your hair. Tell me where you are. I'll come get you. I'll take you home. I regret everything. Before I could even think of a response, Julian grabbed the phone from my hand and brought it to his own lips. His voice was cold and mocking. Too late for regrets. You can't take her home. She's in my bed. There was a stunned pause on the other end. Leo stuttered in disbelief. Julian, what? But Julian had already ended the call and turned the phone off entirely, tossing it aside without a second thought. But it wasn't Leo who would bear the consequences of that call. It was me. Julian pulled me across the bed again, this time holding me close, his breath hot against my skin as he growled near my ear. The minutes blurred together, stretching endlessly into the night. I silently begged for a pause, even a brief moment of stillness, but it never came. Eventually, the dark night gave way to the pale light of dawn. Even with the heavy curtains drawn, the first hints of morning crept through the cracks. Today was supposed to be my wedding day. By now, I should have been heading home, slipping into a white gown, sitting at a vanity while a makeup artist gently painted the face of a bride-to-be. I should have been waiting quietly with nervous anticipation for Leo to arrive and take me to the ceremony. Of course, Julian knew all of this, but the man who had spent the entire night claiming me with a relentless, desperate passion had no intention of stopping. Pleading didn't work. Neither did begging. Not even soft words could reach him. He simply stared down at me, his eyes red and intense, and asked over and over again, "Don't marry him. Promise me, Amelia Evans. Don't marry him. Just promise me." I wanted to say yes, I really did. If only he would let me breathe, let me gather myself. But I couldn't even form the words anymore. When I still didn't respond, Julian collapsed onto me like a man who had lost all hope. He held me tightly, burying his face in my hair. His voice trembled as he whispered, "Amelia, please, I'm begging you, don't marry him. This is too hard." Finally, he gave me just enough space to answer. My voice was barely a whisper. "Okay." The moment he heard it, everything changed. He pushed himself up, his eyes glowing with a renewed, frantic anticipation. "You said yes?" he asked. I nodded firmly. "If you hadn't stopped me," I said, my voice gaining a little strength, "would you really have let me go and marry your so-called best friend? Now that I know what Leo is really like, do you think I would still go through with it?" Julian's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. His lips parted as if he were carefully choosing every single word. If I said I wanted to start over, he asked quietly, to be with you again, would you say yes? My whole body ached, and I couldn't tell whether I wanted to laugh or cry. The only thing I could do was weakly raise my little fist and thump it against his broad chest. "Julian Sterling," I groaned. "You kept me up all night, not even 1 minute of rest, and now you ask me if I'm willing?" At last, his brow relaxed. The tension that had held his face in a tight mask for so long finally melted away. "So you are willing?" he murmured, a small smile playing on his lips. All I could do was nod again. Harder this time. He kissed me, a firm and loud peck on the corner of my mouth, then suddenly stood up and pulled me with him. "Amelia Evans, come with me. I want to take you somewhere." "Where?" I asked, my voice muffled by exhaustion. "You'll see when we get there." I flopped back down onto the bed, completely spent. "No way, another day. I'm too tired. I can't move." He was persistent. "No, today, right now. If you can't move, I'll carry you." He was already rushing to get me dressed. I was overwhelmed, my body still recovering from the night before. "Julian, I'm not even clean. Don't just throw clothes on me like this. At least let me take a shower." He barely paused. It's fine. No one will notice. You can shower when we get back. We'll just toss these clothes and buy new ones." And so the two of us, messy, disheveled, and barely clothed in whatever we could find, stumbled out of the house. Still flushed from a long, sleepless night, Julian carried me straight out of the villa and into the passenger seat of his car. He drove fast but with a steady hand. I noticed him glance into my handbag, though I didn't know what he was looking for at the time. Barely 2 minutes into the drive, he said, "Amelia, turn your phone on. Let your family know the wedding is off. There's no need for them to go to the venue for nothing." Oh, right. His words jolted me back to reality. My brain felt like mush after everything that had happened. I ignored the flood of missed calls and messages from Leo and called my parents first. After I'd spoken with my family and a few close friends, we arrived at Julian's mysterious destination. I looked up and saw the bold red letters ahead: Civil Affairs Bureau, Marriage Registration Office. He had completely lost his mind. I stared at him, stunned, but he simply smiled, turned off the engine, and carried me out of the car. We sat on a bench outside the office, which hadn't even opened for the day yet. He hadn't cared how we looked, hadn't helped either of us freshen up. He had just dragged me straight here, one arm wrapped tightly around my shoulders, the other holding my hand. I could feel his tension slowly begin to ease. "Amelia," he said softly, "we've been apart for 7 years. 7 years, that's a long time. I can't wait another second. If you're willing, let's get married. Right now." How could I say no? My first love had waited for me for 7 years. I had never truly let go of him. And now, finally, we had another chance. But a memory crept in, a memory from years ago when his mother had summoned me to a cold, formal meeting. Julian came from a powerful family, a name that appeared regularly on national wealth lists. Could someone like him really marry someone like me so easily? I couldn't help but ask, "What about your family, Julian?" He cut me off right away, his eyes meeting mine with fierce determination. "We are two adults in love. We want to stay together, to build a life and protect that love with a certificate. We don't need anyone's permission for that. Our parents may have their opinions, but you and I, we're grown. This is between us." He paused, then added, "Of course, I will go to your parents myself. I will apologize and do everything I can to earn their blessing. I will accept whatever punishment they give me until they agree to let me be their son-in-law." Then he took a deep breath. "But as for my family, it was hard in the past and it's still hard now." His eyes gleamed with an unnerving intensity. "I will only say this once. If you ever run away again like you did 7 years ago, if you leave me behind again, I swear you are dead to me." I leaned into his chest, trying to calm the fierce energy radiating from him. "I'm not running, not this time. I won't back out. I'll follow your lead." When the office finally opened, more couples began to line up behind us. Julian reached into my handbag and pulled out my ID card. So that was what he had been searching for in the car earlier. We were the first couple that morning to register for marriage. Neither of us had slept all night, and our dark circles were impossible to hide. But in that small red photo on the certificate, we were smiling like absolute fools. It was obvious to anyone who looked at it that this marriage was our choice, something we both wanted more than anything. The official pressed a large red stamp over the photo. We each received a little red booklet. My hands trembled as I held mine, and his were shaking too. We were married. I had married my first love. He swept me off my feet, lifting me into his arms and planting a huge kiss on the side of my face as he carried me out the doors of the Civil Affairs Bureau. His breath was warm as he leaned in close and whispered into my ear. He looked at me softly and called me wife. I was so flustered I couldn't even meet his eyes. I covered my face with both hands, but I couldn't stop the smile from spreading across my face. My teeth peeked through as I quietly replied, "Husband." With our phones still off, the world outside felt blissfully, wonderfully quiet. On the way back to the villa, he took a short detour and bought us 2 new sets of clothes. As soon as we stepped through the front door, he pulled off the ones I was wearing and tossed them straight into the trash. Then, without a word, he carried me into the bathroom and gently helped me clean up. After our playful bath, I changed into the new soft pajamas we had just picked up. I sank into the bouncy sofa, watching him as he moved around the kitchen. He was making one of my favorite dishes from our time together, a simple shrimp and egg custard. He still remembered. When it was ready, he brought it over and fed it to me one careful bite at a time. There were things we had to face, no matter how messy they might be. But with food in our stomachs and a warm shower behind us, we finally started to feel human again. Julian turned on his phone first. The moment it powered up, a storm of notifications exploded across the screen. He picked up the first call. On the other end was a mutual friend of his and Leo's, yelling in a panic. "Damn it, Julian, where are you? Don't tell me you're actually with Amelia Evans. Do you even know what's going on? Leo's lost his mind. He's been tearing through the city all night looking for you. He's already wrecked more than 10 of your properties. Today is his wedding day, and now both the bride and groom are missing. No one can reach either of you. All the groom's guests have arrived, but not a single person from the bride's side showed up. It's all over the internet. The top trending topic says the Sterling family's bride ran away. The entire web is laughing at him. He's heading to your villa on Poonan Road right now." I barely dared to breathe, but Julian remained perfectly calm. "I'm at Poonan Road," he said simply. "Let him come." After hanging up, Julian placed the empty dishes on the coffee table and took both of my hands in his. "Wife, go get changed. After we handle Leo, we'll go see your parents. We need to explain everything so they won't worry." I nodded. "Okay." We had just finished changing when the front door began to shake with heavy, frantic pounding. Julian calmly pressed the remote to let him in. Leo stormed inside looking nothing like a groom. His hair was a mess, his eyes were swollen and bloodshot, and a rough stubble covered his face. He looked like a man who had lost everything. He glared at Julian, then turned his furious eyes to me, taking several shaky breaths as he tried to hold back his rage. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Amelia, today is our wedding day. Did you forget? Come on, it's not too late. Let's go get married." He reached out to grab my hand, but Julian knocked it away sharply. "You never held a ceremony. You never signed the certificate. Don't call her your wife," Julian said, his voice cold as ice. Leo shouted, "We are going to the wedding now." Their eyes locked, the tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. Julian's expression turned to stone. I stepped forward. "Leo, I agreed to your pre-wedding freedom idea last night, but I never agreed to go through with the marriage afterward. I'm sorry, but after last night, we are both single again. I can't marry you." Leo's jaw clenched. Through gritted teeth, he asked Julian, "Did you sleep with her last night?" Julian looked him straight in the eye and replied calmly, "What do you think?" Before I could react, Leo lunged forward and landed a heavy punch on Julian's jaw. Julian stumbled but quickly regained his footing. Without a word, he struck back, hitting Leo squarely in the face. Leo fell back against the shoe cabinet, dazed. Julian reached for a red marriage certificate from the nearby table and shoved it directly in Leo's face. "Look closely," he said, his voice low and steady. "Amelia Evans is now my wife. Call her yours again, and you will regret it." Leo froze. His hands trembled as he took the certificate and looked at the photo inside. Me and Julian, smiling like two fools in love in front of the official red background. The registration date was freshly stamped in ink. It was real, undeniable. It was like something inside him cracked. He grabbed Julian by the collar, his eyes wide with disbelief. He looked back and forth between us, then suddenly erupted. "When did this start? Were you two messing around behind my back all this time?" He threw another punch at Julian, roaring, "I treated you like a brother, and this is how you stabbed me in the back. You slept with the woman I was going to marry. You stole her from me. I hadn't even touched her, and you already dragged her off to register a marriage on our wedding day. I'll kill you, you heartless bastard. She was mine. Mine." They began fighting again, this time more violently. I rushed between them, trying to hold Leo back and shield Julian. Maybe it was the way I pulled him off balance. Or maybe it was Julian finally hitting back harder, but something shifted. Leo's curses turned into sobs. His voice broke completely. "You call me a bastard?" he cried, tears rolling down his face. "You're the bastard, Julian." He wept like a child in the middle of a tantrum, shaking with rage and heartbreak. "You're the person I trusted most," he shouted. "Do you even know how hard I worked to chase after her? A whole year. I spent millions trying to win her heart. I knelt in my father's study for 3 days and 3 nights, enduring punishment without rest. My skin felt like it had been stripped raw by the time he finally gave in and agreed to let me choose my own path. He looked at me with such disappointment and frustration. But that was the moment she finally believed I was serious. Even then, she refused to let me touch her. She said we needed to take it slow. And now, just like that, you get everything so easily." He wiped his face with the back of his hand, the cool composure he always held crumbling right in front of me. "My parents never liked her," he said, his voice hollow. "They saw her as some bookish girl with no sense of business. They never supported me marrying her. But I was so proud. Do you know what it felt like to say she was mine? A tall, beautiful PhD in research. How many men can say they married a woman like that?" He looked around as if expecting someone to understand. In front of my friends, I held my head high. They were all so jealous. It was better than marrying some spoiled rich girl who only cares about shopping and skincare routines. He turned back to Julian and his voice cracked again. "Why did you take her from me? I thought you were still hung up on your ex, the one who left you. Why not go back to her? Why take what was mine? Give her back, Julian. Give her back!" But the fight had already drained out of him. He collapsed onto the floor, a wreck of a man, sobbing, shaking, and completely broken. I had never seen Leo like this. I hadn't thought it was possible. I remembered how he had chased after me for an entire year, how his relentless energy and enthusiasm had broken through the quiet, sterile walls of my life in the lab. I had been touched by his persistence. For a while, I even stopped thinking about Julian altogether. I convinced myself that maybe I had finally moved on from that distant, painful first love. I told myself I should treasure this second chance. If I missed it too, maybe I really would end up alone. But the truth was, I didn't love Leo enough. Not this young master from a wealthy family, not this relationship that felt more like a project than a partnership. Still, I had seriously considered giving it a real try. With marriage in mind, I had wanted something genuine. So one evening, after another long day at the lab, I found him waiting for me outside the research institute again. I was tired, mentally and emotionally. "Are you just playing games with me?" I had asked him directly. "You know how busy I am. I don't have time for anything casual. If I say yes, are we actually getting married?" Maybe he misunderstood what I meant. Maybe he thought I was ready to marry him right then and there. That night, after he dropped me off, he looked me in the eyes with complete confidence and said, "Give me 3 days. I'll give you a clear answer. Just wait." And he really did it. He knelt in his father's study for 3 straight days and endured every blow in silence, begging for permission to marry me. When he returned, bruised and limping, he smiled and said, "My parents agreed. As long as you're willing, we can get married right away. Amelia Evans, I've already given half my life for you. You can't turn me down now." And looking at him then, how could I? So I nodded, but maybe everything had moved too quickly. We skipped over all the in-between moments and jumped straight to the idea of marriage. That left me feeling uneasy. When he first asked if he could spend the night at my place, I said no. When he invited me to his, I declined again. After that, he never asked. He only kept pushing for us to get married as soon as possible, brushing off everything else as unimportant. I wasn't in a rush. We were going to be married anyway, so why not wait and make that night special? The idea seemed to make him even more excited. Everything seemed fine until Clara showed up. When she found out we were getting married, she came straight to me and made a scene. Only then did I realize they had been involved before. Leo had been with her first. He broke it off and only then started pursuing me. But the timeline made sense. He fell out of love with her, ended things, and chose me. So I didn't think too much of it, even though Clara kept appearing whenever she could. But something shifted after our parents met. My parents are simple people, hardworking, humble, and not used to the polished, powerful world Leo came from. Compared to a family with hundreds of millions in assets, they seemed so small, so plain. They were nervous. My father's hands were rough from decades of manual labor, and he struggled to find the right words in front of Leo's refined parents. My mother was so overwhelmed, she barely spoke a word. They emptied their life savings to prepare a modest dowry, but even that felt like it fell laughably short. And that was when I began to notice a change in Leo. Something in his attitude toward me started to shift. He used to be humble, always eager to please, doing everything he could to win me over. But slowly, that changed. He began to act superior, as if being with me was a favor he was generously granting. At first, I brushed it off. I was no longer the same naive girl from 7 years ago. I had never believed I was beneath a spoiled rich boy like Leo. As long as he loved me sincerely and stayed loyal to our relationship, I didn't care that he lived a life of leisure and had no job. After all, who said everyone has to hustle to survive? But if we were really going to talk about who deserved whom, then let's be honest. I am a PhD in scientific research, a high-achieving scholar, someone with a future, someone who aims to serve society and make a real difference. Why should I ever feel inferior to a man born into wealth who can't even recite the alphabet properly, whose degrees were all bought, and who throws around money like it means nothing? If he thought I wasn't good enough for him, then I no longer believed he was good enough for me either. I used to think he understood the balance between knowledge and wealth in our relationship. But after he visited my home and saw how simple and modest my family was, something in him shifted. He started to believe that I had struck gold by being with him, that I should be grateful, that I should lower myself and cling to him, trying to please him just to keep him from leaving. Then he started flirting with Clara again. It was obvious he had never completely cut her off. And then Julian returned. My heart hesitated. I hadn't even had the chance to confront Leo about Clara when the wedding day arrived, but the night before, everything became crystal clear. His words, his actions, they revealed his true nature. He was never worthy of me. He never had been. That realization gave me the strength to turn around and reach out for the first love I had buried so deep in my heart, the one who had never truly left. Watching Leo cry and throw a tantrum on the floor like a spoiled child, Julian didn't even blink. He probably understood Leo better than I ever did. That line about them growing up wearing the same pants wasn't just a joke. Back then, Julian and I had been in a secret relationship. He never introduced me to his friends or family. It was only after he returned to the country that I realized none of us knew the full story or each other's past. He used to say to me, "Amelia, just give me time. I promise I'm serious about us. But I don't have any say in my family right now. Please wait for me a little longer." And I always nodded. I believed him. He wasn't a great swimmer, but he risked his life diving again and again into deep, dangerous waters just to find 108 rare pearls for me, one for each day leading up to my birthday. He had them turned into the most beautiful jewelry set I had ever seen and gave it to me as a gift. He was someone worth believing in. I knew his family was wealthy, but I never imagined just how powerful they really were. One day, I was walking down the street when several men in black suits suddenly grabbed me and shoved me into a car. They took me to a private room, quiet and dimly lit. Inside sat a graceful, elegant woman. She looked at me calmly, then pushed a check across the table. 1 million. I was too ashamed to even meet her eyes. I gently pushed the check back. I didn't want her money. She gave a soft, mocking laugh. "Little girl," she said, "you really do have quite the appetite." Then she pushed over another check. This one was for 10 million. "If that's not enough," she said in a soothing, almost motherly tone, "I can add more. This is nothing to our family, just a few months of spare change. But you need to break up with my son and disappear from his life. He already has a fiancée. He didn't tell you, did he? Their wedding is set for after graduation. Her dowry alone is worth over 10 billion. What do you have?" At that moment, my entire world crumbled. The dowry aside, even that $10 million check was more money than an average person could earn in several lifetimes. And this was how Julian's mother dealt with her son's hidden girlfriend. by casually tossing money at her to make her go away. My parents made less than 10,000 a month combined. I was just a regular student from a working class family. Every number she spoke felt like a physical slap to my dignity. I felt like a toad trying to eat swan meat. It was no longer just about love. The truth was, I really wasn't good enough for him. We were from two different worlds, heaven and earth, and I needed to understand my place. So I left. I agreed to everything she asked. I didn't take the money. Even the number on that check terrified me. After that, Julian never married the fiancée either. For some reason, his family sent him overseas. They cut off all contact. They used their power to prevent him from returning to the country. He was gone for 6 years. In those years, I buried myself in my studies. I went straight from my undergraduate program to a combined master's and PhD program. I never stopped, not for a single moment. The sense of inferiority had already taken root deep in my bones. I was just a toad who had dared to fall in love with a prince living high above the clouds. I worked and worked, pouring everything I had into myself, hoping that maybe, just maybe, I could become a little less like an awkward, ugly frog. At the very least, I wanted to become someone others would not find repulsive. As I grew older, gained more knowledge, and walked through life's many lessons, my confidence began to return. And one day, it finally hit me. Whether it was Julian or Leo, I had no reason to feel inferior. I didn't need to shrink myself or believe I was unworthy. Because love, real love, is equal. He loves me, wants to be with me, and hopes for a forever. And I love him, want to be with him, and dream of a forever too. That is all that matters. If any challenge comes our way, we face it together. That is the truest, strongest way to love. Julian rolled up his sleeves and kicked Leo twice, right in the backside. You chased her so hard, so why didn't you cherish her? You were so smug once you had her, so why did you throw her away? You were getting married, and the night before your wedding, you still had the nerve to fool around with your ex. And now that she's gone, you cry like you're the victim? You got exactly what you deserved. Leo sat up from the floor, wiped away his tears, and snapped back. You think I did that on purpose? Clara and I grew up together. How could I not have feelings for her? I was confused, all right? I drank too much and lost control. That's why I said all that stupid stuff. His face twisted with anger as he pointed a trembling finger at Julian. But you went behind my back and stole her. Does your conscience not bother you at all? I'm telling you, we're finished. From this day on, I'm cutting you off. I'll never forgive you for this. You are dead to me. Julian calmly brushed back his tousled hair and exhaled slowly. Dead to me? He repeated. So you're saying the Sterling family is walking away from the North Ridge development project too? He raised an eyebrow. You do realize that deal needs my approval now, don't you? If I shut it down, that entire $100 billion project collapses. And you know exactly how your hot-tempered father would react to that. Wouldn't he break your legs in a fit of rage? Leo's fists clenched so tightly they turned pale. Are you threatening me? Julian answered coolly, Yes, I am threatening you. What about it? Leo glared at him, red with fury, but he couldn't speak. Julian pulled me into his arms, nudged Leo's knee with the tip of his shoe, and said, If you're smart, then the next time you see her, you will call her sister-in-law. You will stand properly, and you will keep your distance. Leo stared at him with bloodshot eyes, silent for a full minute, then let out a guttural roar, grabbed his head in both hands, and began to sob uncontrollably again. I gave Julian a helpless look, unsure whether I should offer some kind of comfort. I pulled an awkward smile, but no words came out. Without saying another thing, Julian walked over, grabbed Leo by the ankles, and began dragging him toward the door. Your sister-in-law and I got our marriage certificate this morning, Julian said flatly. We're in the middle of our newlywed bliss, and you're here acting like a third wheel. Go home, call off the wedding guests, cancel the trending topic, explain everything to your parents. I'll visit in a few days to apologize properly. Leo screamed even louder. You heartless bastard, I'll never forgive you. You're trash. You're a traitor. You used your own brother like a pawn. Why did I ever bother knowing you? With that, Julian shoved him out the door. As an afterthought, he added, "And by the way, I didn't steal your girl. You just never treasured her. I simply took her back." Leo picked himself up off the ground and grumbled, "What the hell does that even mean?" Julian turned to me, held my hand, and said quietly but with complete conviction, "Let me reintroduce Amelia Evans. She is my first love. She is the reason I was sent overseas for 6 years. The reason I drowned myself in alcohol and ended up hospitalized more times than I can count. She is the reason I never told you who broke my heart because I was scared you would go after her, or that my mother would cause her pain all over again." He looked Leo dead in the eye, his voice low and thick with emotion. "Amelia Evans is the only woman I have ever loved. And now, she is my wife. So whatever feelings you think you still have for her, you will bury them. Completely. Do not even think about her again. You know what I'm capable of. One wrong move and I will wipe the Sterling family off the Northridge project. I don't want to go that far, not to the family I grew up with, but do not push me." 5 years later, our daughter Poppy turned 2. Her birthday party was held at the grand ancestral estate. Before the banquet began, Julian's grandmother was holding her lovingly in her arms, gently placing a diamond-studded crown on her head, a crown worth over $200 million. "Our little princess was born to live a blessed life," she cooed. "Happy birthday, my precious Poppy. Grandma loves you so much." Poppy wrapped her tiny arms around her great-grandmother's neck and said sweetly, "Thank you, Grandma. I love you too." But as Julian's grandmother looked up past Poppy, her warm smile slowly faded. She saw Julian crouching nearby, helping me adjust my socks and shoes with quiet, gentle care. With a soft sigh, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a property deed. "Lately, I've been feeling dizzy whenever I'm near the water," she said with a sigh. "It's frustrating. That estate overseas, the one I've had under my name for years, over half of it is surrounded by water. I don't want it anymore." She gave a small huff. "But your daddy loves swimming and diving. And our golden grandson? He'll probably love it too." She pressed the deed into Poppy's tiny hands. "Go give this to your mom. Tell her to take your baby brother and enjoy it." That estate, with its perfect location and vast grounds, had once been purchased for nearly $20 billion. It was the most valuable part of the dowry her grandmother had brought into the Sterling marriage. Poppy tilted her head in confusion. "Where is my baby brother?" Seeing my mother-in-law continuing her cold and distant act toward me, Julian and I exchanged a knowing, helpless glance. He pulled Poppy into his arms, tapped her nose affectionately, then gently guided her hand to rest on my belly. "Right here." Maybe it was because I had refused that $10 million check from Julian's mother all those years ago. Or maybe it was because I had grown into someone different, a key researcher at a national institute with significant contributions to my field by the second year of our marriage. Whatever the reason, Julian's parents were no longer as opposed to our union as I had once feared. Bit by bit, the ice had begun to melt. Our story was slowly, finally becoming one of peace, understanding, and a truly happy family.